Jack Horner, King Magnifico. These two villains had one thing in common, a fetish for wishes. But while one became one of the most entertaining villains of all time, the other, and we know which, flopped miserably. So how did Jack Horner succeed where King Magnifico failed? To know why King Magnifico failed where Jack Horner succeeded, we need to understand something about pure evil versus forced evil. And this is best understood when you look at the movie Wish. Set in the kingdom of Rosas, Wish follows Asha, a spirited teenager who hopes to become the apprentice to King Magnifico. He is a ruler loved by his people because he provides for them and is capable of magically granting their deepest wishes. Big deal, right? Well, this is why interviewing for the role as his apprentice is such a big deal to Asha.
My interview is in 1 hour, and I'm so nervous I think I'm going to explode.
But Asha's excitement and dreams are soon crushed when she discovers a dark truth about Magnifico. Turns out the dude was hoarding these wishes, locking them away in his tower, and granting only the ones that serve his power. If any dream was too vague or considered dangerous to his autocratic rule, it was never granted. Plain and simple. The dude doesn't want any competition, especially when he built Rosas from the ground up. Not to mention that he doesn't force anybody to submit their wishes to him. They do it themselves because
the journey's too hard, it is too unfair. They give their wishes to me willingly.
However, Asha sees this system as corrupt, especially considering that the king makes the people forget their wishes once they give them up. We will analyze the stupidity of this important detail later on. But for now, Asha is devastated by the king's scheme, and to retaliate, she makes a wish of her own. One so powerful, it summons a magical star to help her fight back.
Ho-ho there.
Sounds like the setup for a classic Disney adventure, right? But here's the problem. Right from the start, Wish fumbles the one thing that could have made it a classic. It pussified King Magnifico. The king is compassionate and caring, qualities he exhibited early when he first met Asha. We could see on his face and body language how hurt he was when Asha spoke of her father.
How old were you when he passed?
12.
That's not fair, is it?
He relates to her pain because he carries the same wounds. From the very beginning, the film makes sure we see him as sympathetic, even noble. The man even built Rosas without royal blood or inherited power. That takes grit. But more importantly, he's shown as generous, respected, and deeply invested in the people of his kingdom. None of this screams villain. If anything, he looks like a Disney hero who fell into the wrong movie, which makes it all the more jarring when the story suddenly decides to flip the switch. Okay, so maybe Disney was aiming for another twist villain because they kinda overshadowed his villainy. During his first scenes, we see glimpses of a man who is vain and obsessed with control. However, this is not strong enough. He is not evil enough. It's like he's trying to make up his mind between being good and being bad. But compare that with what Puss in Boots: The Last Wish does. The movie follows a famous outlaw, Puss, whose legend and life are threatened by the arrival of death because he has wasted 8 out of his 9 lives. Faced with mortality, he runs and hides at a cat rescue home. While there, new characters, Goldie and the 3 Bears, came searching for Puss. But since Puss had buried his outfit and was living in disguise, they assumed he was dead. Curious, Puss followed them outside and eavesdropped on their conversation. That was when he learned about the map to the Last Wish, and the idea thrilled him. With it, he could restore his lost lives. However, stealing the map would not be easy, and this is where Jack Horner comes in.
Ship him out.
He has the map, and he's just as desperate for the Last Wish as anyone else. Now, both movies deal with wishes, we get that, but where King Magnifico was split between good and bad, Jack Horner's only choice was pure evil. He is hopeless from the first frame. When he dipped his thumb into the pie, tasted it, and afterwards cleaned it on his apron, we see someone who has no care for hygiene. Hence, no care for your opinion, or worse, pity. We see someone who is intimidating, powerful, and loves for things to go his way. When he discovers the map of the wishing star, his grin widens, and he shouts,
Stop everything! You two, come with me. We must get this to the trophy room.
From that first scene, Jack owns his evil, but it gets worse as the movie progresses. He is so bad that even his conscience, literally embodied as the ethical bug, tasted from his cruelty.
What took you so long, idiot?
King Magnifico, however, needed an evil book to fully transition into villainy. But even when he showed who he really was, that is, the villain, he was still not evil. Dude doesn't do anything as wicked as Jack Horner, not one bit. He doesn't kill anyone or even turn someone into a weird creature, like the classic Disney villains. While Asha was busy making goats and chickens talk with the little star she had, our formidable foe was squashing people's boring dreams.
They get crushed.
Mama?
Seriously? This is all a quote-unquote villain can do? Whereas Jack Horner always aimed for the jugular without hesitation. He crushes lives rather than dreams and revels in it. His ultimate goal is to become an all-powerful being, and he has no qualms about destroying everything that stands in front of him, including those who help him.
So that's what they do. Cool. No, not cool.
Jack's evil is real and unapologetic, but King Magnifico is not. Nevertheless, don't get it twisted, Magnifico is not exactly a good guy. Aside from being selfish and controlling, he's actually a creep, peering into people's most beloved thoughts to investigate which dream is a threat to his rule or not is just creepy. The dude is basically acting like a CIA surveillance program, using personal data to predict desires and inclinations. But in a weird way, the movie tries to sell this as a misguided attempt at protection. Perhaps the people of Rosas didn't read the terms and conditions. Yet, the core issue remains. The film struggles to make his villainy truly frightening. His villain song, "This Is the Thanks I Get," is supposed to be his big evil moment, but it plays out more like a frustrated and egocentric hero who's done nothing but give to his community and is taken for granted. Instead of embracing his evil, he's just whining about not being appreciated enough. It's the tantrum of a kid who doesn't get praised for always cleaning the house and decides to make a huge mess instead.
Don't even get a thank you.
But our beloved Jack Horner doesn't even need a villain song. His dialogue, his laughter, his design, and his actions vocalize his pure malevolence far more loudly and effectively than King Magnifico's song ever could. To think that prior to its release, Disney marketed King Magnifico as one of the most formidable foes in Disney history is just laughable.
And people search for a wonder like you.
Seriously? This guy? Anyway, we've seen how Jack Horner's pure, unapologetic evil stands in stark contrast to King Magnifico's forced villainy. But to truly understand why one succeeds where the other fails, we have to dig deeper into the very origins of their malice and the paths they follow. Magnifico's story begins with loss, as he tells Asha,
My entire family, our lands were destroyed.
That pain shaped him, and it explains why he built Rosas in the first place. He wanted a kingdom where no one else would suffer like he did. His whole motivation is to ensure that people's dreams are never crushed the way those of his family were. So now he takes the dreams of people so they won't have to worry about the stress of achieving them or the fear of having them destroyed?
People come here because they know they can't make their own dreams come true.
The only catch is that he decides who gets to have their wishes back and at what time. There's nothing inherently evil about that. If anything, he's just an autocratic man who believes he knows what's best for everyone else.
I decide what everyone deserves.
But honestly, the film presents a compelling argument for his character, even though flawed. He's basically forced to become evil because a supposedly good-hearted protagonist in Asha isn't willing to play by his rules. When he realizes her granddad's wish is to create something to inspire others, Magnifico immediately sees it as a threat to his absolute control. He doesn't want anyone else inspiring people. That's his job alone, because what if that inspiration starts a revolution against his government? Besides, the people of Rosas do not look like they are suffering. This is a kingdom of people who look perfectly content. Their town is clean, they don't pay rent for their beautiful houses, and they seem to have everything they want except for their wishes. Yet, they carry the sense of entitlement that was displayed by Asha during her interview. For a wannabe apprentice of the king, asking for a favor for his granddaddy was just dumb. Say what you like, but she didn't deserve to get that job.
Most people wait a few months, even a year, asking me for things.
I'm so sorry.
Through Asha, we saw that the people of Rosas wanted all the benefits of Magnifico's benevolent rule without any of the consequences. This is a fascinating idea that the film introduces, but then fails to explore. Instead, it turns Magnifico into a villain. Jack Horner's character, on the other hand, is built on a foundation of pure, unadulterated pettiness and gross entitlement. The film gives us a brief glimpse of his past, a fleeting memory of him as a pudgy kid in the shadow of a magic puppet.
What's impressive? I've been a boy the whole time!
But this is hardly the reason he became a cruel person, because Jack was raised by parents who cherished and gave him everything he wanted.
I had much as a kid. Just loving parents, stability, and a mansion.
Yet, he refers to what every kid would wish for.
Useless crap like that.
There, Jack needs no tragic backstory to be a villain. He is a horrible person, period. Good luck trying to sympathize with him. The arcs of Magnifico and Jack are also worlds apart. The king's arc is a confused spiral downward. The film tries to show his gradual corruption, but it feels forced.
Yes!
So we are supposed to fear you now because you have an evil laugh and a staff? His character is a constant contradiction, and the film never seems to decide whether he's a victim of circumstance or a genuinely bad person. This lack of narrative clarity weakens his impact. Jack Horner doesn't have an arc, but a straight line. He starts as a monster, and he ends as a monster. The film trusts the audience to understand that his motivations are shallow, and his actions are without remorse. His character is completely static. He serves as the perfect, unmoving force that pushes the protagonist on their own journeys of self-discovery and growth. It's because of him that Puss learns to let go of his wishes and appreciate what he already has. It's because of him Puss knows if he kept chasing omnipotence, he would end up loveless and dead. This is why his defeat is so satisfying. In the end, one villain's character arc is a confusing mess, while the other's lack of an arc is a stroke of storytelling genius. However, there's one thing many of us overlook, something that could have helped King Magnifico's character despite its flaws. One of the most frustrating things about King Magnifico is that it's not really his fault he turned out to be such a failed villain. The bigger problem is the story he's trapped inside. A villain can only ever be as good as the world around him, and if the foundation of that world is weak, then even the best ideas fall apart. A good story like Puss in Boots is a solid foundation that can elevate any antagonist, but a bad one can make even the most promising villain look weak and ineffectual. Let us consider some things, for example, and leave a comment if you agree or disagree with any of this. So, first off, why the heck is Asha surprised that the king is making people forget their wishes?
You make it so they forget the most beautiful part of themselves, and they don't know what they're missing.
The film treats this revelation as a shocking moment of betrayal, a sinister twist that exposes Magnifico's true nature. But think about it, is it not obvious that that is exactly what happens when they willingly give up their dreams? The contract says he holds them in safekeeping. But if you submit your wish and later can't even explain what it was, doesn't that mean you've forgotten it? The entire premise is built on the idea that the king is a monster for doing the very thing his system was designed to do. He's a villain for delivering on the unspoken consequences of a deal that the audience can see a mile away. And then comes the bigger problem. If wishes are supposed to mean everything for an individual, if they are what makes us happy and whole, how come the people of Rosas are still the happiest after giving up what we're told are the most important parts of their identities? Let's also not forget that the king only grants one wish every month, meaning that there is a huge percentage of people whose dreams will never come to pass. Therefore, the majority of the populace is living a life without the one thing that supposedly gives it meaning. Yet, the film shows a vibrant, joyful community full of song and dance. Okay, maybe they are just content with what they have, and many argue that contentment is actually the most peaceful way to live. However, these guys are not exactly content because they're still looking forward to that day, that possibility of King Magnifico granting the wishes they have forgotten about. So, what is their drive as they await the actualization of their wish? Their entire existence is one of waiting, of passive hope. This lack of genuine ambition or purpose in the world makes the stakes feel incredibly low. But perhaps even more annoying are the people of Rosas themselves. They are not the kind of individuals you would root for because they do not want to work to earn their dreams. We've talked about how Disney is adept at pussifying its villains, but it turns out that has been extended to its protagonists and their communities. We are asked to sympathize with a bunch of slackers, people who are too scared to pursue their dreams. So scared, in fact, that they have to give it away for someone else to keep and possibly grant it to them later. The film wants us to believe that this is a great injustice, but the audience sees a bunch of adults who willingly signed away their responsibility for the promise of a peaceful, worry-free life. This fundamentally flawed premise makes it difficult to invest in Asha's fight for their freedom because the people themselves don't seem to want it. Now, contrast that with the genius of Puss in Boots. This is a story of immediate, tangible stakes. Puss is on his last life, fighting for his very existence. This simple personal conflict gives the entire narrative a strong energy. We are immediately invested in his journey because the threat is real and the consequences are dire.
Okay, no more messing around.
Additionally, all the characters, especially the heroes, are deeply flawed, desperate, and driven. Goldie is using the bears to get a human family. Puss is an arrogant hero who has squandered his lives. Perrito is an abused, abandoned dog with a heart of gold. And Kitty Softpaws is a cynical, jaded thief. They are all broken in some way, but more importantly, all of them except Perrito are seeking the wishing star to get what they deeply desire. Unlike the people of Rosas, these guys are actively chasing their dreams, which increases the stakes and makes us root for them. This kind of story demands a villain that is in the embodiment of the very concepts the heroes are trying to escape. And that is exactly what Jack Horner is. He is the perfect villain for this world because he represents the most cynical and selfish version of a wish seeker. While Puss, Kitty, and Goldie are on a journey of growth and self-discovery, learning to appreciate what they have, Jack is a character who refuses to grow. He is the opposite of the film's message. He is the logical end of unchecked greed and entitlement. However, despite how terrible the story of Wish was, there was one other thing Disney could have done to prevent King Magnifico from being a total lost cause. A villain's journey is only as good as its ending. The final act, the moment of their downfall, is the ultimate statement on their character and the moral of the story. It is here, in the final moments, that the difference between a masterfully crafted antagonist and a poorly executed one becomes painfully clear. Jack Horner's exit works because the story lets cause lead to effect. His choices pile up until there is only one possible outcome, and the film delivers it. On the wishing star, as Puss and the others refuse to use the wish and the map is destroyed, the star collapses in on itself and swallows Jack whole. He even gets a perfect last line.
What did I do to deserve this?
A question that sums him up. Jack Horner's death is pure poetic justice, whereas King Magnifico's end is more of a plot device. After the showdown in the castle, he's trapped inside the headpiece of his own staff. He subsequently pleads from inside the glass, but Queen Amaya refuses to free him. A guard is then ordered to carry him to the dungeon to hang on the wall, and the people lived happily ever after, all with their wishes fulfilled. What kind of lesson is this supposed to teach kids? Life is a fairy tale? That you don't have to work hard for what you earn if you can find someone to grant your wish? Maybe this is a promotional tale for laziness and nepotism. Whatever it is, it was all so annoyingly disappointing. But it didn't have to be this way. Disney could have given King Magnifico a far more compelling ending. He could have even made a perfect redeemable villain because he started off as a good person despite his many flaws. Just think about it. What if they had leaned into his tragic backstory and given him a truly earned, although heartbreaking, final moment? Instead of being trapped in his staff, what if he had a moment of clarity? Perhaps as his rage consumes him, he sees a vision of his lost family and realizes that his path to protect wishes has instead destroyed the very thing he loves most, his kingdom's hope. His defeat could have been a self-sacrifice, a desperate act to break the magic and restore his kingdom's wishes, even if it meant his own destruction. This would have turned him into a truly tragic figure, a man undone by his good intentions, making his end emotionally impactful and memorable. Now that would have been fun, right? Anyway, at the end of the day, a villain is made great by the consistency of their character and the poetic justice of their downfall. For writers, the lesson is clear. Either commit to a villain who is a true unapologetic force of nature, or a villain whose internal struggles lead to a meaningful, if tragic, end. Don't give us a half-hearted villain who is a victim of his own plot. We don't need a villain who is whiny or confused. We need a villain who is a living, breathing testament to the dark side of humanity. A character so well realized that their downfall feels like an inevitable end. Jack Horner succeeded where King Magnifico failed, because his writers had the courage to let him be bad, to let him win, and to let him fall in a way that was entirely and perfectly his own. That's a lesson Disney can learn from. But if they or you really want to see what masterful storytelling is like, just look at Studio Ghibli. We broke down why their films outshine Pixar's in our next video. Check it out here.